Hello, BookTube. I've had a pretty good reading week except for my bail on Monday. So let's get going. So over the weekend, I read two novels by Agatha Christie for March Mystery Madness. The theme this year is 2 by 2. And I think I accomplished that by reading two Agatha Christie novels back to back, both starring Miss Marple. So on Saturday, I read The Mirror Cracked from Side to Side, or going by this American edition of the book, The Mirror Cracked. It eventually gets turned back into the British The Mirror Cracked from Side to Side, I guess by the 90s. Anyway, and then I read on Sunday Pocket Full of Rye. So, The Mirror Cracked from Side to Side is about change. St. Mary Mead is not the little village that readers first encountered in Murder at the Vicarage or The Body in the Library. What was once a mostly rural surround of the village is now taken up by development. The development. It's a series of council estates that have brought in new people to the village. A lot of the businesses have changed. Gossington Hall is no longer owned by the Bantries and hasn't been for maybe a decade or more. Although Dolly Bantry still lives on the property, when she sold the bulk of the property, she took a gardener's lodge or something, renovated it, and made that into her home, while the bulk of the property has changed hands numerous times. Most recently, the American actress, or the Anglo-American actress Marina Gregg, who has recently moved to St. Mary Mead. Miss Marple herself is feeling her age. After a bout of bronchitis, her nephew Raymond West engaged a companion nurse to sort of take care of her, named Miss Knight, who is practically smothering Miss Marple in condescending kindness. Miss Marple, taking advantage of Miss Knight going shopping, goes for a walk. After warning a young woman about her fiancé, she takes a tumble, and she's aided by a middle-aged woman named Heather Badcock, who tells her about her life and all of that. And 10 days later, at a fete hosted at Gossington Hall for the St. John's Ambulance Society, Heather Badcock dies. She's murdered. And that was just what Dr. Haydock prescribed for Miss Marple, a good murder to solve. And then A Pocket Full of Rye is Rex Fortescue is a wealthy businessman who is taking tea in his office when he dies. But the poison wasn't in his tea, it was at breakfast. And it's all a classic Agatha Christie setup. It's a manor house. It's an odious family, all of whom have reasons to kill Rex Fortescue and the other people who are murdered. The king in his counting house counting out his money, the queen in the parlor eating bread and honey, and the maid in the garden hanging out the clothes when a little blackbird comes and takes off her nose. Which pisses Miss Marple off to no end. Ooh, is she pissed. So I love both of these novels. They are both just among my favorites. Pocket Full of Rye is, I think, my personal favorite. It was just a delight to reread. I had a blast rereading it, and the Democrat from Side to Side. So I had a wonderful reading weekend with Agatha Christie. So kind of puts me in the mood to do another Miss Marple rereading project next year, or maybe the year after, assuming I can hold off on reading Agatha Christie for next March Mystery Madness, which I might, I don't know. I mean, Agatha Christie is like the only mystery I have. Anyway, so what was a glorious reading weekend turned into a bit of a depressing bailing Monday. I had a go at The Women's War by Jenna. This is the first book in an epic fantasy series in which a number of women confront their incredibly sexist societies by some magical means. I bailed within the first chapter, in which one of the main characters is going to see her mother, the former queen, who, when her husband, the king, divorced her, basically rendered his children by her bastards and sent her to a kind of sort of convent where some of the more attractive women are forced into prostitution or something. Yeah, I really didn't like the writing. It just, I didn't like it, so I bailed on it. And I don't really feel, because sometimes after a bail, I don't quite accept it, and I do want to have more goes at it. But I don't with this. So, yep. So then on Tuesday, I started a new book. One of the books I hauled in February, and that was An Inventory of Losses by Judith Schalansky, and translated by Jackie Smith. This is a weird little book. It's partially nonfiction, and it's partially fiction. Because the first few chapters, and basically all the chapters focus on, in some way, shape, or form, something that's lost, something that no longer exists. So the first chapter is about the possibly mythical, possibly it was somehow or other washed away in a sea earthquake or something, even though the nearby islands didn't seem to have been affected by it. Tuanaki, which is mostly history, I would say. The Caspian Tiger chapter is, again, mostly history, although a bit of a dramatic presentation. The Villa Sacchetti chapter, I think, is, again, dramatic, but still mostly history. The Love Songs of Sappho and the 7 Books of Mani are, again, mostly history. Guerrique's Unicorn, and I butchered that pronunciation. The Von Bear Palace and Griefswald Harbor chapters are more memoir. And I think the Unicorn chapter is actually more about the loss of Schlansky's own writing project, because she was going to do a book on monsters, and I'm assuming she never actually did it. So, and then the Boy in Blue chapter, Encyclopedia in the World, Palace of the Republic, and Kinau's Selenographs are all fiction. With Boy in Blue basically following Greta Garbo as she walks through Manhattan one day. Encyclopedia in the Wood is about this really weird, eccentric Swiss man who basically tried to create an encyclopedia in the woods. Palace of the Republic is a rather interesting vignette. I quite liked it. It's about a young woman who is taking care of her daughter while her husband is doing some kind of military training or study, and who went to the Palace of the Republic, which was the sort of East German parliament, and various other things. And then Canal Selenographs is a bit of an old style science fiction story. It's really fascinating. I mean, some of the chapters dragged a little bit, but for the most part, I really loved this book. It was an amazing reading experience, so quite enjoyed it. So, my reading plans for this coming reading week. I'm thinking I'm going to try some Bell Redemption this weekend. So I'm going to have a Bell Redemption of, hopefully, Blue Angel by Francine Prose. This is a satire of academia. It's about a creative writing professor who is accused by his most promising student of sexual harassment. I wanted to read this book for years, ever since I read a review of it, and I'd never gotten around to it until sometime in 2020. At which point I kind of bailed on it. And I haven't been happy with that bail, so I want to have another go at this book and see what happens. And even though it hasn't been all that long since I've had a Bell Redemption shot of this book, I want to give it another go, because I don't think I was quite fair the last time I had a go at this book. And that is Wonderland by Stacey Erasmo. This is about a fading rock star who's trying to make a comeback and having a memory storm throughout her time. And assuming I can get, or if I don't bail again, these two, I'm going to also try The Answers by Catherine Lacey, which is a book I've wanted to read for quite some time. And if it's a triple bail weekend and Monday, I will then probably move on to South to Freedom by Alice L. Baumgartner. So that's kind of my plan. Because I'm being probably a bit overambitious. So we'll see how things turn out. Hopefully everything works out well, and if I end up not being able to get to The Answers or South to Freedom, then I will kind of either move them to the next week or find another time to read them as things turn out. Anyway, so on to other news and other booktube event stuff. So if you're wondering why my bookcase behind me is different, that's because last Thursday I got a new bookcase in. I've been needing a new bookcase for a while, and given the amount of books I bring into my library and the fact that I'm not getting rid of any, I'm needing more space. So I bought a big 6-foot by 3-foot long bookcase that I put in the hall, and I put it together on Friday. Was not a terribly pleasant experience. I had some trouble with putting it together, but it came together, and I have it in the hall. And I've since moved the classics, the canonical, and modern and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama into the hall. Which, with everything in there, still does not give me a whole lot of space. There's like one empty shelf left. So yeah, I'm going to have to maybe rework something, or yeah, I don't know. So I basically had this bookcase empty, which if you watched my Monday video, the library tour part 40, the bookcase behind me was empty. And I've since filled it with, on the top, general nonfiction. And then on the lower shelf, general genre fiction. And they'll be there until my history shelves kind of overflow, like my history books overtake this bookcase and begin to encroach on this one. At which point I'll move the general genre fiction either to this wall shelf here, or maybe back to the headboard bookcase, and then the general nonfiction back to its wall shelf. So we'll see how that turns out. I also finished my 2022 library tour, which makes me quite happy. I had fun, but it was exhausting, and I think towards the end of it, I was thoroughly tired of it. Particularly all of the science fiction, which I will kind of, for next week's videos, since I haven't been doing a lot of tags, I will be doing mostly tags during my usual filming period. Although on Monday I will do a sort of 2022 library tour wrap up during the evening, pretty much when I do my weekly reads before Monday Night Draw with David Finch and Meredith Finch comes on. David Finch is a comic book artist who every Monday night draws as a live stream, and I've quite come to enjoy his live streams. And his wife Meredith Finch is a comic book writer, and also a bit of a farmer now. So yeah, so I'll do that. Do a lot of tags this coming week. I was thinking of, to celebrate the end of my library tour, of doing an original tag. I've been working on a random 100 questions tag that I was going to do to celebrate having 1,000 books in my library, but doing a Q&A for that, I think it's kind of superseded it, because while so far I've only 4 comments with questions, 2 of them are a barrage of questions, so I can make a pretty good sized video off of those 4 questions, or series of questions. Although if you would like to ask me some questions, go to that video and leave a comment with your questions. I'm going to be doing those March 30th, the day before I do my March book haul, which is going to be insane, because I'm in a little bit nuts this month regarding my book haul, but it's also been fun getting all of these books in. So anyway, BookTube, that's about all I have for this week. I will see you next week with a lot of tag videos. Maybe or maybe not my original tag. I might hold off and do that in April. But until I see you next week, thank you. Have a great weekend and evening, and stay safe.